Welcome back, ladies and gents, to another episode of Tactical Harmony. I met today's guests through our respective businesses as we share similar viewpoints on culture and leadership and mindset and law enforcement, among many other themes. I was on his podcast actually back in the day, and we had such a meaningful, good conversation that I knew one day he would be a guest on our Tactical Harmony show. So without further ado, allow me to welcome Eric Tung to the show. Eric Tsung created Blue Grit to help police, first responders, and high drive individuals live and perform better. Eric is an active police commander in Washington State who oversees patrol operations and his department's wellness and peer support programs. He has been a police officer for over 18 years and integrates the extreme highs and lows that are synonymous with the career to help guide others to live better through grounded mindset, adaptable routines, and positive impacts through leadership and organizational culture. He is an avid writer, speaker, and coach for those looking to uplevel all aspects of their lives. He shares lessons and insights in his podcast, Blue Grit Radio, which, by the way, I absolutely love that name. And I know
Thank
I
you.
told you that when we first met. And through his free newsletter available at bluegritwellness.com. And he can be found on LinkedIn at bluegritwellness@gmail.com and Blue Grit Wellness on Instagram. Eric, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me. Yeah, it was great to have you on. It was really exciting to get an email from you to come on. So yeah, very excited for this.
Oh, it's gonna be so good. Yeah, I know it's been a long time, but your message, your theme, your viewpoint is so relevant. And I'm gonna start off by asking you, what got you into law enforcement? Was it something you always wanted to do? Did you kind of stumble into it? Like, tell us that journey for you.
Yeah, it was not something I always wanted to do. It's definitely not something my family wanted me to do. I was raised pretty traditionally as far as like Asian American. My parents were immigrants, but a lot of the career paths and the suggestions were a little bit more stereotypical. Huge push in academia, wanting to get into medical field or legal fields, things like that. But ultimately, like all the tracks, I was trying things out, computer science, they just didn't resonate. And so high school, college were trying things and then going a different direction. Ultimately, what got me there was seeing the need in the community. And I always had an affinity to those that served in these more stereotypical caretaker, public servant, uniform personnel type of roles. And so halfway through college, I had developed quite a bit of confidence in trying different things and socializing and getting involved with different groups. I was like, why not me? Like I'm a young man. I'm super capable. Why not? Like I figured out so many things just by diving into them and working out kind of the analytical process. And so I didn't really know anyone in it, but I did the research I could, which was pretty limited at the time compared to what's out there now. And part of why I do the show as well is trying to reach the next generation and provide meaningful information for those that want to find it there. But essentially threw myself at fire and police testing, and a lot of police doors were opening up at the time in 2007, and the rest is essentially history. Like I got in that summer and started with academy and doing all the different roles and hats to 18 years later now.
Wow, that's yeah. We actually started the same year, with 2007.
Yeah,
Wow.
that sounds really familiar, and I loved kind of connecting on that and how you went a different route, but really with this desire to help people with this, you know, this enforcement kind of safety aspect, and then your broad thinking. I think that that's what's really necessary. I mean, the culture. A lot of times you see all the negativity,
Mhm.
and then so it is hard to get outside of that and try to flip it to the positive, constructive place that everyone started with. Everyone got into it for that thing, but it just becomes so pervasive because the routines of what they go through and what your common officers and investigators are exposed to on the daily.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think oftentimes we can forget that initial why or what tethered us to that
Hmm.
mission, that vision, that, yeah, we're going to put on the gun, the badge, we're going to take that oath, and there's going to be a lot of sacrifice that comes with that, but we signed up for it and we're ready for the job. And reminding ourselves and our communities and our families and our loved ones of that is truly important.
Yeah.
And I appreciate you sharing your journey, because I think so often many think that, oh, you always wanted to be in law enforcement or you always wanted to be XYZ. And oftentimes that's not the case. And it wasn't for me either. I joke I kind of stumbled into NCIS. I don't know how one does that, but here I
Yeah.
am. I was out, forensic science, and, just one internship led to another. And then here I am. So that's really cool. And kind of related to your law enforcement career, was there an event potentially within your journey, or maybe a collection of experiences that led you to running the peer support programs and the wellness programs?
Yeah, I would say it's a progression of events, and where I really got into all things wellness was not all at once, and it was really by virtue of the job. Like, I didn't grow up eating like the most healthy food. I was a latchkey kid. My mom did her best, right? Like, but I remember growing up in our generation, just getting home from school, watching TV, eating a sleeve of Oreos, trying to hide the evidence, and then doing your homework really rapidly, right? Me and my sister. So all to say, like, and I didn't grow up playing sports, so getting into fitness was more like a college social thing with my buddies. But then in academy, it was a lot of running. But then once I got out onto the street, I picked my department largely because I wanted to do like quote unquote the real thing. Like I wanted to work in a high crime, high paced area, and I didn't think I'd like the quote unquote adrenaline aspect of chasing people, chasing the bad dudes that, are foot pursuits or vehicle pursuits. I thought I'd get into investigations, but patrol is what really resonated with me. And I wanted to work a dog and I wanted to work canine. So for me, that became necessary to be like my absolute best as far as like fitness, durability, speed, strength. So I just did the deep dive into that aspect of wellness. The emotional, mental health side was more just because I like to think myself an easygoing guy that gets along with a lot of types of people. So I got into peer support because that's a lot of that type, right? You're approachable, you're easy to talk to. But as the job and the stressors became more apparent, just not just for me, but those I was around, I began to be more recognizing of the impact of something as simple as a peer support culture, right? Where it's not taboo, it's not a stigma to talk about you're stressed, to talk about how something bothered you, like you see these really atrocious things. It has an impact on the human soul. But really, like the impetus to me stepping up more was when I promoted to sergeant and I lost my buddy Diego in the line of duty. And I saw like our regional partners reach out and they did what we call debriefs. They did a lot of mental health care, a lot of this large group peer support kind of initiative where I saw the huge benefit. And I recognized that there's a lot that we could do with our already really robust team just to put more like strength based training as far as like legitimate peer support training, a little bit more organizational structure into that and bake it in and then continue to find and define some different wellness aspects and programs that we could build in the department. So that was really the thing. And then doing more and more of it, which started with a social media page in 2020 was Blue Grit because I'd already nerded out on all these things. And I was like, how do we share this and how do we share a more constructive message outside of politics, outside of, us versus them? It's just like how do you take control and agency over the simple things you can do? Like starts with your own mindset. I know you're huge on that. That's where we really connected. And these little things that aren't so little, but they can start really little, right? Just getting a little bit better movement, a little bit better sleep, and things like that. And it's continued to grow based on essentially like what the need is. And I mean, we have a lot of thought leadership need in policing.
Yeah, that ownership and the sphere of control, as I affectionately call it.
Yeah.
What can I do? I
Hmm.
can create a page. I can have a conversation with someone. I can write a letter. For those of us in the night born in the 1900s, we used to write letters and send postcards. But the little things are the big things. Are you, getting good sleep hygiene? Are you taking care of all parts of you? Mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually. There's so much to consider. So, Eric, I'd love to hear, how do you work with others to allow them to see that wellness and performance are integrated and not something that are separate from one another?
Yeah, sometimes it's just boiling it down. By the time people are actually talking to me or they resonate with the content or the stuff I put out, they get it. They quote unquote get it, right? And a lot of times it might take walking through, hey, like what is the goal? Oh, it's performing better, it's being better at work, it's being better at home. Okay, stress is a factor. How do we work on stress? And it's for some people it is knowing the thing, but just not knowing how to apply it, right? Like we know going on walks is helpful. We know working out's helpful. We know what we put in our bodies is helpful. But like, what does that look like? Because life is busy. And so there are aspects of like kind of health coaching that I've done in the past or I continue to do. But a lot of times it's more of just like, how do you orient on what it is you want in mindset, right? And leadership. And that's where I write and talk a lot about leadership because it's not about leading a team. It's about like leading you in your life. And then you are a leader in every organization or kind of affiliation in your life, whether it's your family, your neighborhood, PTA, right? Whether it's your workplace, even if you're not a supervisor, like everyone is a leader in how they influence everyone else. So, you talk about what you can control and what you can influence. I can only control me and not even all of me, right? We have involuntary things that happen with our bodies and medical stuff, but I can control the majority, the vast majority of my thoughts and actions and intentions and results, but I cannot control anybody else. But I can certainly influence anybody if I try.
I love that. And it's true. I mean, we're big here in Tactical Harmony on holistic leadership, how
Hmm.
you influence and inspire yourself first, and then how you influence and inspire those around you, your family, your day, your communities, your loved ones, the colleagues, everything has a leadership component to it. So I love, Eric, that you called that out. And if we view our bodies as a vessel or a temple and everything that's coming in,
Hmm.
and I mean everything, words, thoughts, what you watch on the television, what you
Yep.
read in a book, what you scroll on
Social
Instagram
media.
or whatever, food, drink, everything that's coming through, if you kind of look at it as, hey, I'm going to have this filter and I'm going to be really adamant about what I am allowing to come into my body, into my temple or vessel, it really kind of changes the game. And you realize that you do hold the power, the keys of everything. And other
Hmm.
people's projections and opinions, it's just that. It's their own and how they want to live their lives. They could be on a different trajectory than you, but really focusing on yourself allows you to impact and serve others in such a meaningful way.
Yeah, I love your approach. I know that we're deeply aligned on a lot of those themes, and it's like you talk about all these inputs. We get so focused on outputs, and anyone that's listening to either of our shows, they're high performance. They're hard charging people, values driven, right? Like it's not the slouches listening in, taking time out of their day to listen to these types of shows. So they're so output focused, but it's like we lose sight of how our outputs are derivative of our inputs, right? We are products to some degree or a lot of degree of our environment, and we can't control all of it, but we can certainly control quite a bit. We can toggle it, right? You talk about the social media scroll, and I literally just had a conversation about that on the podcast because it's so slippery. Like you can open the app and you might not even follow the things, but they just give them to you. And the longer you look at it, you're going to get more of it. And a lot of times, those are not the things that they don't help us get to where we want to go or what we want to think about.
100%. And yeah, so continuing on the theme of wellness and peer support, I know that in law enforcement in particular, and I've seen a lot of individuals who pride themselves on being tough and having mental toughness. And
Hmm.
I think that's great and amazing. And, that's certainly true. But I'm curious, in your experience, have you ever had to reframe wellness or peer support as something that's going to serve them? And it's not a weakness if you ask for help, it's not a weakness if, you're seeking counsel from other people. Have you ever had to reframe that?
A little bit. I think most people get it. Like they hear the different takes on it. And then I feel like more than ever in this stage of my life. What frustrates me is the polarization of things. And what I mean by that is like it's okay not to be okay. Like that is now somehow really offensive and kind of triggering to some people. They're like, "Well, it's also okay to be okay." Like you're absolutely right. They're all okay. We want to be okay. Like let's not get sucked into the word choice. And so I love that a lot of people like way before me and still and way after me are going to be talking about how vulnerability is strength and how to show up empathetically. But also, I think when you ask that question, what comes to mind is are the people that they get it. They're not like pushing it away. They're like, yeah, I understand. It's helpful. However, they feel like eyes are on them. And a lot of times, what I see in the community is those with more rank or influence feel like they actually do truly want people to get help. They actually do truly believe in the impact of that. However, they don't give themselves the grace to do it. They either feel like they don't have time or they feel like they have too many other things to focus on. And it kind of goes to that doer kind of caretaker fixer mode that you alluded to earlier, which is like sure, you can redline and a lot of people can take care of others for a long time before they can take care of themselves. But we have to recognize it's an inevitability that there will be a burnout, there will be a cracking
Mhm.
point. It's happened time and time again in every industry. People have written books about it. Like we can take those examples and learn from them and utilize that wisdom. It's not to disparage, like people mean well, they want to do well, and it works until it doesn't. We shouldn't find ourselves going that direction or finding that end spot. So we're all going to have our struggles with that, but it's just finding the off ramps and giving ourselves permission. And so those are a lot of the conversations I have with people I work with or people that I connect with, which is to recognize like logically they know that it would help, but just giving them permission. And often one of the coaching things that helps, uh, in my experience, is just offering that they step outside of themselves and act like they are their friend. Like,
Mhm.
like let's flip the script. Like I'm you, you're me. What would you say if I said that? Or like, well, I'd tell you to knock it off. And like, that doesn't make any sense. I'm like, cool. Let's just sit with that for a moment.
Oh, mic drop. There's so many things I can pull the thread
I
on.
know. I'm just trying to throw all these things in that
Oh,
come to
you're just
mind.
like coming at me. Okay, so yeah, perspective. It's not just a word, it's not a fluff word. It means something, y'all. Because one thing that I share too is very similar, Eric, is what would be your mother's perspective or your
Mm,
best friend's perspective or your creator's perspective, whatever you believe in, if it's divine, your creator, God, source, universe, what is
mhm,
their perspective of your situation? And usually it's a little bit different, especially if you find yourself struggling, you have inner discord, there's misalignment, and it really stops you in your tracks. And like you said, I love your word. You find the off ramp. You find the off ramp, you find that outlet, you find what works for you, and you turn the volume up because it really does allow you to put the fuel in your tank so you can go further, faster, and most importantly, sustainably. And I know I will pick on myself. I was very much guilty of do, work, 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 24/7, go, 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 and I'm not filling my cup.
mhm,
I'm doing everything for everybody else and I'm not focusing on Rebecca. And there's a lot of things I love to do. And I wasn't doing those things because I didn't have time, which
mhm.
is complete BS because
Yeah.
it was a lack of me prioritizing my time and my day and my mornings. And so I don't want others to have to go through that knowing what I did. And so I'm pretty passionate about that. So Eric, what do you do to stay grounded? You're a father, you're a police commander, you have coaching, you have a podcast, you've
Yeah.
got a lot on your plate. So, what does Eric do to keep himself grounded and prevent burnout?
Yeah, the first thing I do is that paints across all that is reflect. And
Yeah.
kind of what I mean by that is like at different stations of my life, different decades, different years, the focus has been different. So if you ask me in my 20s like what is my success and what is my discipline attributed to, I would say an absolute like inflexibility with working out and going to the gym. Right, and that worked at a time, and it's still, like I don't wanna say it's not a huge part of my life, it is, like, I have to do something daily, but sometimes if sleep was poor and I got called out or I stayed late and, whatever, Sometimes doing something physical is going on a 10-minute walk with my dog, and it's not monitoring heart rate. It's not like doing all the hard things. Sometimes the hard thing is like the not hard thing, ironically. So it is like recognizing like I got to do something movement wise. It might be stretching or it might be lifting really heavy. And so that is a huge part of my life still. But reflecting, I've really leaned into journaling the last few years. And my latest work in progress is just finding moments of quiet, like walking without headphones or earbuds, because younger me, older me, younger me, that's confusing. Sorry. So me in the past would always be like trying to squeeze every bit of productivity out of something. So listening to a podcast, I'd be on a run and I'd stop and I'd take a note on what I should write, what I should write next, because it kicks up this idea, something I want to try at work. But just like be where you are, because there are so many moments and little minute moments in the day. It reminds me of what you just said about not having time. And I heard, this is not my unique idea, but if you think you don't have time, like look at your phone, and if it doesn't already tell you, which is jarring, like how much average screen time you have per day. And if that isn't enough, like look at your schedule and look at all the unscheduled things and start scheduling things. Sometimes that's literally something I do, which is schedule a phone call with a friend I haven't talked to in a while. I put it in my calendar and then it's a non-negotiable. So finding those different levers that you can pull and just recognizing like what are the non-negotiables per day or per week. That's something I operate off pretty religiously.
That's beautiful. That reflection and introspection is something that has really helped me as well, especially in the last 5, 6, 7 years
Hmm.
ish. And I've done it in, through so many different vehicles. And I have found that meditation has been beyond transformative for me. And it allows me to sit my body down, to tame myself like an animal, because my mind is always going.
Hmm.
And I'm very introverted, so my mind doesn't stop, and I'm thinking of the next thing I have to do and what else I can do. And unsurprisingly, Eric, just like you, if I'm walking my dog or if I'm doing something, I'm going to cram so
Hmm.
much I can so I can just keep being productive and I'm going to get the result that I'm seeking. But when I do nothing, I'm sitting down, I am meditating, I'm going inward. It has been beyond transformative. And that has been in the last couple of years. And one other thing I wanted to comment on that you mentioned is, just really kind of looking at your day. And I actually just talked about this with my team recently, is kind of looking at an energy audit. And by
Mm.
that, I mean, like, what are you doing in a day and where are you placing your energy, which is where you place your life force? What are your habits? What are you doing? And what's actually moving the needle? What's moving the ball down the field? Because a lot of times we find that we do a lot and we're busy, but we're actually not very productive. We're actually
Mm.
not getting the darn result that we want. So, very often we think that growth means you have to add more, add more, add more. But sometimes, very often, in my experience, we need to subtract more.
Yeah. Hmm.
Like, remove something. Can I delegate this? Is it not urgent and I can shift it to the right? Can I remove it completely? And then you find that you actually do have quite a bit of time. And I say that to all the very busy high performers that are listening to us right now. And so do your audit, do your reflection, journal, all these powerful tools that are at your disposal. Shifting gears, Eric, a bit. I know you're passionate about creating a healthy culture, and I'm curious, and this might be a loaded question. There's probably not one thing that you do to create a positive culture within law enforcement in particular, but if you could name a couple of things that are, non negotiable or instrumental in
Hmm.
creating a healthy culture in law enforcement, what would those be?
Yeah, I think the main thing is trying and showing up. It's a lot of my insights have been outside of law enforcement. Like I think we all benefit from learning across industries, but people quit bosses, they don't quit jobs. And in law enforcement, in policing, you have to recognize that and you have to look like really turn up the scrutiny on that, because we had so much attrition, right? We had really rough years recently and we had record numbers leave, and then we're trying to recruit. So like if we don't flip the script or we don't flip the lens and look at ourselves that introspection. Like we don't know what to fix. And so questioning, staying curious, not judgmentally, but just with the audit, right? Like I love the energy audit. And there's a lot of ways we can apply these audits of like, am I showing up? Am I creating a supportive space? Is my work, is my team, are the meetings and the environments we interact with, are they psychologically safe? How do I know that, right? What evidence do I have that that is true if I believe so? Like, can my can my subordinates come to me and bring issues? Can they complain? Are they allowed to vent? And if you aren't sure, then that's probably worth a deeper dive. And so, trying to be analytical to that is a huge practice of mine. Like, I read something, I'm like, huh, is that me? Am I the toxic leader? How do I know? Am I narcissistic? How do I know? The good thing from like mental health professionals that I've heard is like if you're asking yourself if you're narcissistic, it's generally you're probably not really, which is a good cue. But I think it's
Yeah.
like that desire to be introspective and desire to ask why or why not. Like, how do you know? And could something else be true? Like, can this get better? Why or why not? And what can I do for it? Right? Thinking about that circle of control or sphere of influence kind of thing.
Yeah, and it goes to having that radical accountability and an extreme ownership mentality that,
Hmm.
make it and I think this does have a lot of, application in various parts, whether you're in your career, you're starting a business, you're just starting out, is make it your fault. Make it your fault. Figure it out. Like, where's my role in this? Did I not communicate something clearly if one of my agents doesn't come into work on time? Did I not communicate the importance of it? Or is something going on in that person's life?
Hmm.
And, humanity, we see all parts, the spectrum of humanity in law enforcement. And so often we can forget to take care of each other. So having a conversation, pulling up a chair, sitting down over a cup of coffee or whatever you want to drink and say, "Hey, how are you? What's going on?" And really dig in and know your people. And that does create trust and respect. And you're not doing it for those reasons in particular. Of course, those are important and non negotiable, but
Hmm.
really digging in. And I think this framework applies so to everything. It really does, is really getting to know your people, making things like when I say make it your fault, what is my role? Where can I do something differently? Where can I shift? Is it my communication? Is it, I didn't delegate something that I should and I'm taking too much on? Do I have a blind spot? And so the power of reflection and everything that you're talking about is something that I wish a lot of leaders beyond law enforcement would practice because it's huge.
Yeah, if I can add something from based on what you just said, it's like recognizing your people are your most valuable asset.
Mhm.
And I do usually add on because I don't believe everyone believes that. So you do add on the okay, what is most important to you? Is it profits? Is it operations? Is it statistics for policing? Okay, who's achieving those things? It's your people. Okay, so like if you don't care about people to care about people because it's the right thing to do, then care about people because they will show up better, they will do better work, they will be engaged with the mission, you will build trust, lines of communication, right? Like it's almost like if you put on the cynic hat and try to appeal to the cynic, I think you can still get there. And some people paint it really beautifully in a lot of books and work about why people matter, but some people might not. Maybe it's the toxic leader, right? Maybe it's the narcissist that do they do excel and exist in a lot of organizations. Maybe to appeal to them, you talk about how like the bottom line is affected by the people. So like let's get them on board and let's take care of their needs so that they'll show up better.
Yeah, and I will share that I had the experience of working for a very, very toxic individual,
Mhm.
and it was a lot of narcissism, a lot of, not looking at your people, not taking care of them. Where can I find where they made a mistake rather than empower them, make them better, stronger, leaner, faster? And it taught me a lot. It was stressful, but it really did teach me a lot of, the classic what not to do. But it was
Yeah.
beyond that, as it allowed me to really grow a lot of legs and tentacles and all these things as a meaningful, holistic leader, taking care of your people, seeing them and what they're going through, whether it's at work or at home, and allowing them in whatever mode, atmosphere that they need to become the best version of themselves, because we all have this crazy potential. And I believe that a lot of us don't tap into it because
Yeah.
we want to play it safe, or, it's comfortable if I just stay here, even though I really do want to do this thing. But who am I to think that I could do this thing? And I'm like, no, dude, let's go. Like, you can do this. If they can do it, then you can do it. I mean, if
Hmm.
I can start a podcast and figure out this whole tech thing, anybody in the entire world can do it. Can we
Yeah.
just say that? Because I still don't know what I'm doing, but here I am, because I know I am tethered to my why. I want to help people, I want to serve them. And this is an amazing vehicle. And anyway, Eric,
Hmm.
why did you start your Blue Grit radio podcast?
Yeah, so I talked a little bit about why I started Blue Grit, and it was a hobby, it was social media and a blog. And the podcast really kicked up because at the time I was in recruiting, and recruiting for police in 2021 was no easy task. It was a whole revamped effort by my department. But me and my recruiter, it was some of the hardest times in my career, but also some of the most rewarding and fun looking back on it. Like, because it was kind of like you're just saying, right? Like, what do you have to lose? Like, swing for the fences. Let's go. Let's do this thing. And starting a podcast on my own was one way, additional ways that we could have the type of conversations about why most people get into policing, and then do that kind of mentorship. Also, the thought was like, hey, if I have my podcast where we talk about our experience recruiting, we can share that link, and now we're scaling it more easily for people to tune in, listen, learn a little bit about us, so that if they're interested, they'll lean in. If they're not interested, they'll lean away. But just trying to reach more people at different media forums, truly. And then it's continued to go and grow from there based on whatever facet I'm working on. But now in command, it's a lot more administrative. So like, I do think a lot about what the whole industry could use, the whole profession, like leaders at all levels. How do we empower field training officers and sergeants, and develop those type of mechanisms alongside wellness? Because it's not just wellness for wellness sake. It's taking care of yourself, like your machine, your computer, so that you can do all the things that you seek out to do in this life.
I love it. And you're doing the Lord's work. I love your podcast, your newsletter, and we will
Thank
make
you.
sure we share all of that at the end of this episode so everyone can tune in and find you. And before we part ways, I do have two last questions for you. The first is, if you were to go back to your young 25-year-old self, or perhaps someone that might be listening to this that's just starting out, what advice would you give them as it pertains to either leadership, mindset, or performance?
Yeah, I would say to work on and reflect on, like, who are you at your core? And these are things that I'm trying to explore now. Like, who am I at my core, without the accolades, without the rank, without this and that? Like, I'm just a dude. But then strip it down farther. Like, who am I? And it's your values, and it's your intentions, and it's your
Mhm.
creativity. And so, without going too deep on that, the reason why I would suggest my younger self and anyone do that, and even my present day self do that, is because the more you know who you are, the more you can polish up the best version of yourself. It's kind of like you're saying, it's more about taking away than building up. So I am of the belief that we have all this potential within us, and it's unlocking it. It's not to say you don't have things to learn and develop, absolutely, through hard work and dedication, but it's within you. You're not just like creating it out of nothing. You're not unlocking this secret weapon in this video game. But it is just like the knowing yourself will help you show up better, your authentic self. So that translates directly into leadership. I spent a lot of time trying to be the boss that I thought I should be because this person or that person or whatever. But like, the most effective I've been is recognizing my deficiencies, recognizing my strengths, and then just being the most authentic version of myself, and then letting that take over.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's so important, and I did that same thing. I'm like, they need this type of leader, and I need to show up this way. That can be exhausting, right?
Hmm.
Because there's all parts of you, and the lens you look through are your values, and we could go very deep on that as
We
well.
could
But
go so deep.
so
Yeah.
deep. There's so much to unpack. I've had a lot of masterminds, a lot of things that I've done personally to uncover what my values are, and it's been quest and
Mm-hmm.
journey of what I thought I was living for and then what I'm actually living for. But we'll set that aside. We'll do another episode on
Next
that.
time.
But and I like how you called out it's not something, that it's like this secret inside. It's, awakening what you already have. And something that I always say is awaken the leader within.
Hmm.
So that pertains 100% to exactly what you just said, awakening your potential, awakening what's already there. You just got to shine a little light on it, wake it up. It might be a
Yeah.
little dormant, a dragon sleep, and wake it up. And there's, a process of clearing out junk, right? There could be things in the way. Is it
Yeah.
a limiting belief? Is it a bad habit? Is it a toxic relationship? Is
Mm-hmm.
it something that's sucking the soul out of you? That's for you to answer. But sometimes it requires clearing the path so that that leader within, that potential within can rise, so to speak,
Yeah.
and become prominent in your life. And let me tell you, when that happens, you're going to see synchronicities. Things are going to be more ease and flow. I'm not going to say you're not going to have friction or problems because that's life, but you're going to have a different experience in life when you allow that to really blossom.
Yeah. It's pruning, right? And like the new growth can't come in until the old growth is gone. A little bit of Bruce Lee, like keep what's useful, discard what's not. I
Yes.
do want to, I'll take one moment because when you're saying, yeah, like be bigger, like step in, like it reminded me of like we walk in shoes too small. That's Carl Jung. And so you talk
Yes.
about going deep, like depth psychology. It's like you're going to die either way. So what story resonates with you better? Do you want to take the risk? Do you want to go to this path or not? Like fast forward to, when we're super elderly, when we're 120, right? And we're looking back like, what would you regret? This or that?
Yeah. Yeah. The rocking chair test when you're looking
Mm-hmm.
back and, people don't really think about you more than you think about you.
For sure.
And, I had to
Who
learn
has the
that when
time?
I opened my business and I'm like, I'm putting my last name out there.
Mm,
And oh my goodness gracious, I've never done this. I've been social media dork and oh, like it's cringy. Do I have to put Instagram posts out there? Who
mhm,
am I? And then I realized, Rebecca, nobody is thinking about you more than you.
mhm,
Right. And then when
yeah,
I finally just, put it all out there, following my heart and intuition, I had so much support. And I'm like, why was I thinking and holding myself back? Like, I know better. So, I do for anyone that's listening to this or watching us, have some grace with yourself
mhm,
because, we can know something and, the knowing versus doing.
yeah,
And I'm guilty of it. I know Eric is too. Nobody is
100%, yeah,
perfect. So,
all the time.
that's why we want to put this out. Last question for you, sir, is if no one sees or hears anything but this one clip, what message would you like to leave our audience with here today?
Man, be you. It's all within you.
I love it. There's nothing
I
else to say.
Yeah, I mean, like, my wife would, point out the Libra in me and, like, just weighing it out, I'm like, "Oh, there's so much pressure," but I feel like this whole conversation's been all the things, and to distill it down,
Yeah.
that's tough, but, yeah, we're always looking for these external answers, but it
Mhm.
might sound cheesy, but I find the older I get, the cheesy things are true, and maybe they sound cheesy because we choose not to believe them. We think they're cheesy, but they're inherently true, and we should sit with them and evaluate them a little more.
I agree wholeheartedly. Like it's we're the meaning makers and we apply labels on things. And I say this all the time, but it's so true. Nothing is good or bad, but thinking makes it so. And it's true. So if something is triggering or bothers you, sit with it. Hold hands with it. Why the hell is it bothering you?
Hmm.
If there's something within that's like, ugh, right? Like,
Yeah,
and again, make it your fault, make it about you, figure that out because,
it's that
there's
shadow work.
something. Yeah. Oh, yeah. See, we're going
uh,
deep again.
hmm.
Okay. All right.
Careful,
Right.
back away.
Yeah. We're going to
Yeah,
back up.
yeah,
We're at the end. Eric, okay. You have to come back on the show or I have to go on yours. We got
yeah.
to
I'll have to do it
continue
again.
this because this is for sure part one of many. But for anyone who wants to get in touch with you about either your coaching or maybe they want to tune in to your awesome podcast, where can they find you?
Yeah, the easiest thing is to go to bluegritwellness.com because then you can sign up for the newsletter and then weekly you'll get the podcast updates. You'll get my little gritty thought, little philosophical stuff or stuff I'm learning about and taking a spin at, um, along with how to get in contact with me. But otherwise, all the contacts that Rebecca so kindly worded at the beginning, the podcast is Blue Grit Radio. It's on all your major platforms.
Awesome. And I, like always, will put all of Eric's links and socials and things in the show notes to this episode. So you can just click on it and go straight to him. With that, Eric, a humble thank you. Thank you for your service. Thank you for everything that you were doing in this world. And I appreciate you, brother. You were awesome. You're doing the Lord's work.
Thanks so much. It's been a pleasure.